All right, here we are, folks, back to this Super 2 barn find. So if you saw the last video, you know that we're doing a little extra on this one. So this car didn't come with a body on it, and I thought, well, hey, let's do something a little bit different. So we're going to go with the #1 concept paint scheme that you might have seen on the brochure there at the very end of the last episode. And so to the best of my knowledge, this was not a production body. Kind of looks like a lobster on these templates that I've created, but it really, what these templates do is they block off the area that was actually clear. So it was a two-tone paint scheme, primarily blue with some white pinstriping and white numbering. And so what we're going to do is we're going to recreate that as best we can, or as best I can. And that way there's something a little bit unique to go with this Super 2 barn find. We know that it was missing a lot of original pieces, but we fully restored it back to 100% original. And so it's a super nice car, and why not have something special to put on display so you can talk about it with other fellow racers and enthusiasts. So what we've done is we've put the template on, and what we're doing here is attempting to get this to lay down. And when we do that, we are going to sand it a little bit later with the Scotch-Brite. And the whole purpose of this is to cover up the area that we want to try to keep clear, but we do want to scuff the inside of the body so that way the paint has a better chance of sticking to it and lasting a little longer. Now, if you use them, it's going to, you're going to crack the bodies, you're going to knock the paint off. It's just inevitable. But we want to make this really nice right out of the gate, and then let the new owner decide what they want to do with it. Maybe they want to run some other kind of body if they're going to actually put it on the track and just keep this one as a display. But in either case, we're going to take this Scotch-Brite and we're going to scuff it up a little bit and give the paint the best chance of adhering to the plastic body itself. Now, I'll actually put this on, and there are two different lobster type designs that'll go on here. One's bigger than the other, and that's so you can get the little white pinstriping on. There's just a little shot of my card. But the idea is you put the smaller on first, scuff it up really good, and then remove that and go back with the bigger one. And that way everything is scuffed, and when you go to actually paint it, you'll put the bigger stencil on first, paints the blue, then you put the smaller in. That gives you that border trim, and hopefully we'll see that in a later episode where the white would go, and then you'll have the two-tone. Here, I recommend always pinning the body first. You can see where the pinholes are and take the time to get that lined up and get the body sitting like you want it. For me, I just eyeball it. I don't do enough of these to have a template or some kind of jig or anything. I've done maybe a dozen or so. And so this seems to work for me. I'll just get it setting pretty close to where I want it. And then I'll just take a fine point Sharpie and just touch it right where the pin goes in. In this case, it will come with factory original pins. You'll probably see me remove those here in a minute when I go to test the body. But they were steel pins, and I may not have covered that in the actual assembly process. The original pins were steel copper coated. That was to help with some of the tarnishing degradation of the steel and rusting inevitably. But the pins in this one were in really good shape and actually didn't require any cleaning. So I just left them in the front weight. And so they're there now, and then we can use those when we finally do the final pinning. Now that I've marked that front pinhole on the one side, I just use just a regular needle, a seamstress style needle, poke a hole in the body, leave that in, pin it down, and then that way, instead of just using the original going in and out, this just holds it in place. Then I'll position the body like I want it. Once I've got it squared up as best I can and got the front wheel holes pretty close to center, I'll make sure the body is sitting on the tabs at the back, but also level across the front bumper. And then I will mark the front pinhole and so that way we can poke a hole in it. I don't drill them or take a chance on anything like that. It's pretty easy with these little plastic bodies to pop a hole in there. And this is an original Super 2 body, came out of the package. So you're getting an authentic body with the car. Whoever decides to own this, it's not a repop, it's not a reproduction. I have had some of those. You could tell most of those are a little flimsy on the body, a little thinner in material. This is nice and thick, and so it is the original mill thickness on the plastic. So now we've got both of those pinholes installed. We'll just run these pins in here, give it a quick test. In a perfect world, you want the body to flip up if everything goes well. I've got some that don't flip all the way up that I actually play with on the track that I have and do little mock races. But those don't flip all the way up, and it's because I have done everything I can to get the front of the body as low as I can to the track. But in this case, we wanted to make sure that it did flip up like it was intended and that your gaps look nice and good. Body sits square on the chassis. Nothing funny about that. So all that part looks nice. And then we'll probably give it a little flip test here right at the very end. And there you go. So now that we've got that all squared away, we're going to go back to working on the body. You'll notice I have two of them. So my son is into these as well. And he's been after me for probably close to a year to create one number one paint scheme for him in a car he has that had a clear body on it. And so I told him, well, I'll be in the process and doing it for this particular one. I'll just do two at the same time, and that way he can keep one for his car. So I do have one myself in my display cabinet, and it turned out really well. But that particular one was painted all by hand and masked off by hand, which took an incredibly long time. You might think this video is long, but I'm running it on 2 times speed. So it's really tedious, and I've cut out probably 2/3 of the time that I spent just getting alignments, setting the templates in place, doing the sanding and the prep, and trying to make sure that we get these stencils down and attached to the body. It's a permanent stencil material, so it adheres relatively well, but you've got some pretty unique contours on the body. And so to get over those contours, I use a hair dryer. I'll just warm that stencil up from the bottom just a little bit. It makes it flexible and pliable. And then I'll just slowly and gently work it in with a pair of needle nose. And I'll use both ends. So I'll use the pointed end to kind of rub it into the really small cracks and crevices. And I'll use the butt end that's kind of rounded. You want to be careful not to tear them. But if you do, don't freak out, don't panic. If you're watching this video for an installation purposes, because at some point I'll probably list these stencils on eBay with the other 2 designs I have already on eBay, the number 4 and the number 3. But if you do tear it, don't freak out. Just a little piece of masking tape, cover up any hole that you might have poked in there, and you'll be just fine. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to wind up using a little piece of masking tape myself. When I cut the stencils, the outer portion of the number 1, or the very bottom, which you would see here of where the number 1 would go, by the time you shape it to the hump, which is the air tunnel coming in from the top, it distorts it a little bit. It's not perfectly squared up. So I stretch it. I get the stencil to lay down as best I can on that hump as it goes over and back down towards the flat. And then what it does is it tweaks it a little bit. And so I'll just take a tiny little bit of masking tape and use it to square that lower section back up. And that way, once the border, this is going to create the border in blue that goes around the white number 1 on the back of the body. That way, it's got a nice shape to it. It's not skewed in any way. So the purpose of the Scotch-Brite, which you see me doing here, it's just a gray Scotch-Brite. You can pick it up in any probably auto parts store or a paint and body shop facility if you've never done one. Just a one piece will last you probably a lifetime if this is all you're doing. But just tear off a little tiny piece and be super gentle. You don't want to crack or tear the body. But I'll scuff it up, and you can barely even see it when you pull the stencil back off that it's there, but it's just giving it some texture on the inside, and it helps with the promotion of adhesion of the paint to the body itself. Gives it a little something to stick to. These bodies, I guess when they were created, they were slick, had like a little oily film kind of to them, and paint doesn't stick to them as well if you leave it that texture. But I don't know, if you catch it just right, you might be able to see where it's slightly gray and almost faintly dull on this outer trim area here where we've Scotch-Brighted it, and then we pull the stencil back off. I'm going to get a little bit more in these corners. If you put it on the track, these are the first things that get hit, so we just want to make sure those are scuffed up well and nice. And so the reason I put the stencil on again was because I used a small stencil to start with, and if I do sell these, you'll get like a three piece of the lobster design, if you will. And I put the smaller one first, do all the Scotch-Brighting. That is exposing all the area that would get any paint, including the white and the blue. And then I'll go back with the bigger stencil, because the bigger stencil is covering up where the white will go. And then you will paint the blue first, and then you'll come back, remove that stencil, put the smaller stencil on. It exposes a little area of trim, which will eventually become the number ones and the white pinstripe. It'll expose that area, and then you'll paint it white on the inside, and then you'll have both colors that'll come through on the top. So now that we've got the bigger stencil on, before we were just prepping it ready to sand, got it all sanded down, and now we're going to work on actually getting the stencil to lay down in there. Again, super tedious, takes a while. Hair dryer is there just to limber up, supple up that vinyl so it'll lay down in there and try to get it shaped around all those odd shapes. I start in the middle. I get the front up to the air dam, get it squared, and then run my finger right down the middle towards the back of the body. Once you get to the back of the body, you'll want to make sure that the stencil is squared up with the back, and then you've got equal gap on both sides, left and right. All that looks well. Then you'll begin to warm it up, and then I start by rubbing down the front fenders. You're trying to bow that down into what would be the upper part of the fender well. And so I'll just go gently, heat it up, do a little bit, don't push it all the way down, do a little bit on both sides, heat it up, a little bit more, heat it up, a little bit more, and just gradually work it down until it sticks up into the fender wells on the front. And then once you've got that squared away, you'll slowly begin to work your way towards the back. And you've got these air dams that would come down from the top, and they protrude up, in this case, where the stencil is. And so you're going up them from the front wing wells and then take a steep dive back down as it goes towards the rear of the body. And so you have to warm it up to try to get it to contour to the body on the inside, and that way it's masking it over to keep it clean. Now, little disclaimer, there's not to say that you won't get some bleeding under these stencils. Don't panic if you're using a water-based paint like I did, and I did inevitably, or do inevitably go back and touch these up. You can do that. Just use a hobbyist Q-tip, fine point Q-tip, and you can find them at the Hobby Lobby store, and just use a water-based paint cleaner, and it doesn't hurt the plastic, it doesn't dull anything, and you can just gently take your time and clean up anything that may have run under the stencil. Don't panic, it's going to be okay. And so here I'm just continuing to work it down. This area right at the bottom of the number one, always the hardest. So take your time around there. Be patient, warm it up, and just make sure that you're rubbing down the edge as best you can. The more confident you are that the edge of the decal is, or the stencil is adhered itself to the body, the better off and the better your paint design will be, and the cleaner and crisper your lines will be. That's really the ultimate goal here, is to cover this up. In the middle, you might have air pockets. Don't freak out. You don't need to make sure you get every bubble out from under it. Remember, this is solid, so no paint should get through it. The purpose here is to make sure that you're getting the outer edge in the right place and that the outer edge of the stencil is sealed to the body as best you can. This will prohibit any of the paint from getting through. And again, if some does, don't freak out. Once it sets up, by the time you clean up from actually spraying that first coat, you can go back with your brush cleaner material. Again, I get this stuff at Hobby Lobby. It works just fine. You can go back and use that on a fine point Q-tip to clean any of that up. Always the most tedious part right here is making sure we continue to work this down. I'll warm it up, press it down, stretch the vinyl slightly, and then just kind of work it in there and continue to do it. Now, if you keep heating it, it's going to keep trying to turn it loose. I do it enough to kind of stretch the material to get it into the place where I want it to be. And then you have to let it cool, and then eventually as it cools, it will go on and stick and adhere. Now here, you remember I mentioned putting on a little piece of masking tape. What I'm doing is I'm putting it on top of the vinyl at the bottom of where the number 1 is. You can see I've already placed the stencil number 1 into position. And so I'm squaring up the very bottom of the big stencil to make sure it's squared up with the number 1, but leaving enough to make the blue border that would trim that. And so this exposed area that you'll see, that'll all be blue. And then once the blue is painted, we'll remove it, and then we'll go back and put the smaller stencil on, paint it white, and this area around it will become white. So we'll do the side number 1s. Same principle. The stencil is just covering up the area that will inevitably become white. We'll do first one side and then the other. And the idea here was to replicate as closely as possible the image. And I have some images on my phone that I found on the internet from various different propaganda where they were marketing the cars when they were new, which is actually a little bit better than this card that you may have just seen. That actually came in something I purchased, and the colors are very dark. So color comparatively wise, we're gonna actually be lighter than that image, just based on some computer images I found online. And if you have a very similar card to it, or even if you go back and look at it, you'll notice that the red and the yellow were very dark on that particular card. But in real life, the cars are much lighter, almost orange and a bright canary yellow. Well, listen, once again, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the little bell, and that way you'll get notified on the next video.